July 4th, 2020, fireworks lit the sky over Atlanta, Georgia. But beneath the celebration, the city was on edge. Awash in fury, sadness, and exhaustion, the black community was raging. Protests over the death of George Floyd, who died in Minneapolis, Minnesota police custody, turned into a nationwide reckoning. Demonstrators filled streets across the country calling for change, and police reform in particular. They had enough. And in Atlanta, those tensions turned deadly. 8-year-old Secoriea Turner was riding in the back seat of her mom's car that night. Within minutes, she'd be gone, caught in gunfire during one of the most chaotic nights Atlanta had ever seen. The summer of 2020 was like no other. Protests erupted after George Floyd's death. But Floyd was not the only name fueling the fire. Elijah McClain, a young man, had been killed prior in 2019 after a violent police encounter in Aurora, Colorado. Breonna Taylor was a nurse shot in March of 2020 inside her home in Louisville by police as she slept. And in Atlanta, another name joined the list, Rayshard Brooks. Brooks' death outside a Wendy's on University Avenue sparked outrage. Protesters returned again and again. The fast food lot turned into a fortified zone, guarded by armed civilians who said they were keeping watch. Police stayed, some of them, and the anger simmered. Therefore, in the end, the cops stopped showing up to the city and stopped going to work overall. This was called the Blue Flu. It was a city with violence and no police to respond. All of these dead individuals that I just mentioned were black. So, on this Independence Day in 2020, the 4th of July, there were no fireworks shows across most parts of the U.S. This was due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Parades were canceled. There was no going to a baseball game with your family. No going to a concert with your family. The only option available was lighting your own fireworks or having a barbecue with your family at your home. The COVID spread and stuff was at your own risk. And the Turner family took this risk. They had gone to visit family members as well as a few friends in order to celebrate the 4th of July together during this difficult time. But some, instead of celebrating that way, they took out to the streets around that Wendy's where Rayshard Brooks died and had the area be filled with tension. A group of armed black dudes had blocked off part of the road near the memorial. The black dudes initially were all just standing there holding their guns. They were not shooting at all. Among them were 19-year-old Julian Conley and 22-year-old Jerroin McKinney. At around 9:50 that night, shots ran out. Two of the armed black dudes fired at passing cars, trying to stop one they believe posed a threat. But the bullets missed that first vehicle, and that family in the vehicle got to get away very quickly, speeding off. But they did not miss a second vehicle who they believe posed a threat. Inside that car was an 8-year-old black girl, Secoriea Turner. She was riding with her mom and a friend of the mom who had wanted to go to that barbecue they were going to. The bullets went inside the vehicle and hit Secoriea. Therefore, the mother rushed her to the Wellstar Atlanta Medical Center and brought her in to the ER. but doctors were unable to save her. Secoriea was gone. The bullets had struck her too harshly. She was dead. The Atlanta Police Department's homicide unit therefore opened a full investigation. Within days, they identified 19-year-old Julian Conley as a suspect. News cameras caught him walking into the APD headquarters with his private attorney, Jackie Patterson, to surrender. Attorney Patterson told the reporters, "My client was there that night, but he did not fire his weapon." But investigators were not convinced. Conley was charged with multiple offenses, including malice murder and felony murder. The following day, Julian appeared at the Fulton County Magistrate's Court before Judge Aslia Gulamhausenia, who ordered that he remain behind bars to await trial without bond at the Fulton County Jail. He appeared virtually from that jail via Zoom. Investigators would go on to tie Julian, along with another one of the black dudes, 22-year-old Jerroin McKinney, to a criminal probe within the state of Georgia. Fulton County DA Paul Howard would charge Conley with multiple offenses, including malice murder and felony murder, and this state probe would be presented to a grand jury at the Fulton County Superior Court. Both the 19-year-old and 22-year-old would now face a long and complex legal battle. That DA, Paul Howard, would go on to be voted out of office. However, he would get the chance to unseal the 37-count indictment that the grand jury reached. The charges within that indictment included malice murder, 2 counts of felony murder, aggravated assault, as well as several firearms and gun-related offenses, all felonies. The next DA voted in to prosecute would be Fannie Willis. Willis, together with Howard, before he officially left office, appointed prosecutor Adam Abadi to take the case on moving forward. Julian got an extra public defender to assist him. However, in June 2021, this defender, Eric Cho, announced he was leaving the case due to conflict of interest. Another private attorney joined in to help Julian out, Daryl Cohen, but he too would leave the case after doing his job of helping the main attorney prepare for trial, the main attorney being Jackie Patterson. He left in September 2025, just before trial. Yet another private attorney in favor of Julian joined the case to help Patterson out during trial, Arnold Ragas. McKinney, for over a year, had been on the run, hiding from police, as they were looking for him to bring him to justice for murder. But in August of 2021, the GBI had tracked him down to Loganville. Agents closed in during a surveillance operation. They noticed he would constantly go to people's homes and then leave. They tracked down his every move and spied on him. Then, during an encounter, once McKinney was headed to one of these homes, the agents finally caught up to him and captured him. He was taken directly to the Fulton County Jail. He was now 23 years old. At this point, the case was already very advanced. Julian Conley's attorneys had already submitted not guilty pleas to the court on his behalf. And now it was time, a day after McKinney's capture, to arraign him as well. He made his first appearance at the Fulton County Superior Court, virtually from the jail via Zoom, before Judge Kalilia Elurbia. He pleaded not guilty to the charges. This judge ordered that he too remain behind bars without bond to await trial. McKinney hired a private attorney to defend him, Michael Katz of Decatur, Georgia. The family of Secoriea Turner is suing for negligence, a civil matter that is pending. They claim that the city of Atlanta failed to keep those in the area safe and allowed the rioting to become more chaotic. The family seeks about $16 million in damages. They are suing several defendants, the city of Atlanta itself, their mayor, Keisha Bottoms, who was in office at the time, police chief Rodney Bryant of the APD, council member of Atlanta, Joyce Shepard, Wendy's International, and University Venture, who owned the property where that Wendy's was, the one where Rayshard Brooks died. Later on, a decision is expected to be made at the Fulton County State Court. We will see what happens. In September of 2025, 5 years after Secorea's death, the cases for both defendants reached a climatic moment. On September 10th, Jerroin McKinney took an Alford plea, a deal where he did not admit guilt, but acknowledged that the state could probably prove its case. This deal had been negotiated between the defense and prosecution. He entered this Alford plea at the Superior Court. The plea was entered for the aggravated assault charge, as well as a gun offense and a firearms offense. The rest of the charges were dropped with the deal. Judge Rachel Carnesali immediately sentenced him to a prison term, 20 to 40 years. With the deal, he waived his right to appeal. McKinney was shortly after taken to the Georgia Diagnostic Center in Jackson. Days later, the trial of the last defendant, Julian Conley, began. For nearly 2 weeks, jurors listened to testimony, watched footage, and heard emotional appeals from both sides. The jury consisted of 12 members and 2 alternates. The alternates would be dismissed before deliberations, as the 12 main members were confident enough to reach a verdict. When the verdict came down, the courtroom fell silent. They found Julian Conley not guilty on the gun charges, but guilty on the rest. Judge Rachel Carnesali immediately sentenced Conley to life in prison without parole, plus an additional 25 years for other offenses. Today, Julian Conley is incarcerated at the Georgia Diagnostic Center in Jackson. He is in the process of appealing his case, a matter which is currently pending. Jerroin McKinney, who is now in his mid-20s, is serving his sentence at the Wheeler Correctional Facility in Alamo, Georgia. What began as a summer of protest, a demand for justice, ended in chaotic rioting and a big heartbreak for yet another Black family. I'm Santiago, and this is Strawberry Ink True Crime. It was important to cover this case today as it is the day after Martin Luther King Jr. Day. May all those affected with the recent racial backlash rest in peace. Take care and have a good rest of your day.